Welcome to Cheating Wives Among Us. He opened the door expecting a normal evening. What he found instead, he'll measure his whole life against. Let's dive in. I stood in my brother's doorway holding a pizza box and a six-pack of Miller Lite, and the first thing I saw was my wife's purse on the couch. It was the brown leather one, the one with the brass clasp that always stuck, the one I bought her for Christmas 3 years back. I'd know it in a lineup of 1,000 purses. I knew the scratch on the left corner from when Lily dragged it across the kitchen floor. I knew the faded ink stain near the zipper from when a pen broke inside it. It was sitting on Dylan's couch like it lived there. Dylan opened the door wider, and his face went the color of old drywall. He had that look you see on a man who just heard a sound in the crawl space he can't explain. His mouth opened. Nothing useful came out. It's just a colleague from the office. She stopped by I looked past him. 2 wine glasses in the kitchen. One had lipstick on the rim. That berry shade Megan wore when she wasn't going to work, when she was going somewhere she wanted to look good. A woman's jacket was draped over the back of a dining chair. Not thrown. Draped, like someone had taken it off slowly, folded it once, laid it down. Comfortable. At home. Then Megan walked out of the hallway. Her hair was down. She always wore it up at home. Always a messy bun held with whatever was nearby. A pencil, a chip clip, didn't matter. But here it was down, brushed, falling past her shoulders the way it did when we went out. She was wearing a silk blouse I'd never seen, dark green, new. She'd bought something new to wear to my brother's apartment on a Tuesday evening when she told me she was working late. Those details. People think it's the big thing that breaks you, the image, the betrayal, the word affair hanging in the air. It's not. It's the details. It's her hair being down. It's a blouse you've never seen. It's the proof that she thought about this beforehand, that she stood in front of a mirror somewhere and got ready. For him. That she didn't stumble into anything. She walked into it with her eyes open and her hair brushed. 6 seconds. That's how long I stood there looking at the two of them. I've measured my whole life against those 6 seconds since. Everything before them. Everything after. I set the pizza down on the little table by the door. Set the beer next to it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't put my hands on anyone. I turned around and walked out. Megan came after me. I heard her bare feet on the concrete of the hallway, then the parking lot. Grant, wait, it's not what you think. I got in my truck. She grabbed the door before I could close it. She was crying already or starting to, that pre-cry where the voice shakes, but the tears haven't committed yet. I looked at her. I looked at her for a long time. And I said the only thing I said that entire night. You helped him through his divorce. Now I understand how. I pulled the door shut and drove away. I need to back up because none of this makes sense without knowing what came before. Dylan and I are fraternal twins, 15 minutes apart, born in Toledo, Ohio, raised on the east side near the old Jeep plant. We never looked much alike. I came out big and quiet, shaved my head in high school, wrestled at 189, never had much use for talking when a nod would do. Dylan came out lean, grew a beard the second he could, and never met a silence he didn't try to fill. People who didn't know us wouldn't guess we were related, let alone twins. But we were close the way twins are, not because we were similar, but because we'd shared every first. First day of school, first fist fight, first truck, a beat-to-hell 2004 Silverado our dad bought for $1,200 and told us to split. I married Megan Porter 7 years ago. She was an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown, smart, organized in a way that made my head spin, color-coded calendars, spreadsheets for the grocery budget, the whole thing, but warm too. The kind of woman who remembered your coworker's kid's name and asked about them. We had Lily 3 years in. My plumbing business was growing. I'd hired 2 guys by then, had steady commercial accounts, a van with my name on the side. Megan did the books for my business on top of her own work. We were a team. I believed that the way I believe water runs downhill. It was just fact. Dylan married Jenna Cole 4 years back. It fell apart fast, the way things do when one person wants a life and the other person wants an audience. Jenna said he was emotionally checked out, spending money they didn't have, coming home late without reasons that held up. The divorce was ugly. Lawyers, accusations, the whole miserable machine, and Megan stepped up. That's what I thought at the time, stepped up. She helped Dylan organize his paperwork, cooked dinners and brought them over, sat on the phone with him while he vented about Jenna and the lawyers and how unfair everything was. "He's your brother," she told me. "He's family." And I was proud of her for it. I told her that. I said, "Thank you for taking care of him." She smiled when I said it, and I thought I understood what that smile meant. I didn't. I noticed things during that stretch. She was stressed, working late, distracted at dinner, shorter with me, not mean, just elsewhere. I put it down to the extra weight of carrying Dylan's emotional baggage on top of her own job and our life. I didn't push. I gave her space. I even picked up more with Lily to take pressure off her. That's the part that gets me, even now. I was making room in our life for her to be with my brother, and I was doing it out of love. One more thing. During his divorce, Dylan mentioned once that his lawyer was expensive, real expensive, but he'd found the money. I didn't ask where, didn't think about it. I had a business to run and a kid to raise and a marriage I thought was solid. I drove straight to Nate Bishop's house. Nate has been my best friend since 7th grade. He's an electrician, built like a mailbox, blunt as a claw hammer, the kind of man who opens his door at 11 at night and doesn't ask why. He took one look at my face and stepped aside. I sat on his couch. I didn't speak. Nate went to the fridge, came back with 2 beers, sat down across from me, and turned on the TV football game. He put it on mute. We sat there watching men run routes in silence for an hour and a half, and he didn't say one word. I turned off my phone. For 3 days, I lived in Nate's spare room. I'm going to tell you what I didn't do because I think it matters. I didn't get hammered. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't drive back to Dylan's and do something I'd regret. I went to work. I crawled under sinks, replaced water heaters, snaked drains. I came back to Nate's. I sat. I ate whatever Nate put in front of me, and I processed it, not the way a therapist means, with stages and breakthroughs, but the way a man like me processes things. Slowly, completely, like pouring concrete. It goes in wet and shapeless, and it sets, and once it sets, nothing moves it. Day 2, Nate finally spoke. He was frying eggs at the stove, his back to me. "What do you need?" "A lawyer," he nodded, didn't turn around. "My cousin used a guy, Frank Caldwell, got her everything plus the dog. I'll get you his number." Day 3, I turned on my phone. 47 missed calls. Megan, Dylan, my mother, my father. Texts stacked on top of each other like a traffic pileup. I didn't read any of them. I called Frank Caldwell's office and made an appointment for Thursday. Here's what scared Megan and Dylan the most, and I know this because Megan told me later through her lawyer. They expected me to rage. They expected shouting, threats, maybe begging. They had scripts ready in their heads for all of those. What they didn't have a script for was nothing. They got nothing from me. Silence. And that silence was worse than anything I could have said because it meant I was done. Not mad and might come around. Done the way a doctor is done when he stops treatment, not angry at the disease, just finished. The phone calls started the first week, a cascade, like dominoes, except every domino was someone I loved trying to rearrange the wreckage into something they could live with. My mother called first, Patricia Lawson, 59 years old, warm as bread from the oven and utterly incapable of accepting that her family was broken. Grant, honey, please. He's your brother. He made a mistake. Family forgives. That's what family does. Mom, he slept with my wife. That's not a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to turn off the stove. What he did, that was a choice. Every single time it was a choice. But what about Lily? She needs her uncle. She needs parents she can trust. And right now, I need a mother who doesn't ask me to swallow this like it's medicine. That was harsh. I know it was harsh. She cried. I heard it through the phone, but I was raw, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even her, tell me that what my brother did was something I owed it to the family to absorb. My father called separately. Douglas Lawson, 61, retired auto worker. A man who says less than I do, which is saying something. His voice was quiet on the phone, the way it always was, like he was saving every word for when it counted. What are you going to do? Get a divorce? And I don't have a brother anymore. Long pause. I could hear him breathing. Then, I understand, son. He never called Dylan again. Not once. I didn't ask him to do that. He just did it. Dylan called. I didn't pick up. He texted, not short messages, but walls of text, paragraph after paragraph, the kind of writing a man does at 2 a.m. when he's alone and the quiet gets loud. I read exactly one of them. It said, "It just happened, man. I was in a bad place." You have to understand. I stopped at that word. Understand. Not sorry, not forgive me. Understand, as if it was my job to make sense of what he'd done. As if the weight of his betrayal was mine to carry and sort and file away in some cabinet labeled things that are complicated. No, it wasn't complicated. He slept with my wife. He looked me in the eye for months while he did it. Megan called 19 times in one day. I picked up once the last time because I needed to say one thing. She started fast, the way people do when they know they've only got a few seconds. Grant, can we please just talk? Just give me 10 minutes. I can explain. You'll be hearing from my attorney. I hung up. But here's the thing that ate at me that week, a memory. About 6 weeks before the night at Dylan's apartment, I'd come home early from a job. House was dark. Lily was at my mother's. Megan wasn't there. I texted her. She wrote back, "Client emergency, quarterly close stuff. Gonna be late." I said, okay, heated up leftovers, watched TV, didn't think about it again. Except her firm didn't handle quarterly closes. She'd told me that herself, years back. They were a tax and audit shop, not bookkeeping. A small detail. The kind of thing a husband files away without knowing he filed it. That memory dropped into my head that week like a stone into a well, and I listened to it fall for a long, long time. Month 4. Dylan sent me a letter, not a text, not an email, a handwritten letter, 4 pages, in the same scratchy handwriting we both got from our dad. He must have thought the effort would mean something, like the physical act of sitting down with a pen and paper would unlock a door I'd welded shut. I read it at Nate's kitchen table on a Tuesday night. Nate was in the other room. I could hear the TV. The letter said this. It started during his divorce. Megan was there for him. He was vulnerable in a dark place, and one thing led to another. He never planned it. Nobody plans these things. I had to understand the position he was in. And then, "We're brothers. That's blood. That doesn't go away." I read it twice. I'm a slow reader, always have been, so I read things carefully. And what I noticed, what landed like a slap, was what wasn't in those 4 pages. He never once wrote, "I'm sorry." Not once. Not in 4 pages. The entire letter was an explanation, a defense brief. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was asking me to agree that it was inevitable, that given the circumstances, anyone would have done what he did. That I should nod along and say, "Yeah, I see how that happened." I took the letter to the backyard, lit the grill, fed the pages to it one at a time, and watched them curl and blacken. Nate came out to the porch with 2 beers, handed me one, watched the last page turn to ash. Feel better? No, but I'm done reading his excuses. Month 5. This is where the ground shifted under everything. Frank Caldwell was building my case. During the discovery process, the legal part where both sides hand over documents, Megan's phone records and credit card statements came in. Frank's paralegal flagged them first. Then Frank called me in. He laid it out on his desk the way a mechanic lays out parts he pulled from your engine. Here's what's broken. Here's what it means. Megan and Dylan had been exchanging dozens of texts per day, starting 11 months before I stood in that doorway, not during Dylan's divorce. Before it, 2 months before Dylan even filed, and there it was on her credit card, right at the beginning of that same window, a Comfort Inn off I-75, 30 minutes south of Toledo. Tuesday afternoon, 2 o'clock checkout, 11 months ago. Megan had told me she was at a professional development conference that day. I'd picked up Lily from daycare because she said she'd be home late. The hotel and the texting started at the same time. This wasn't some slow drift. They went from 0 to everything at once. I sat in Frank's office and let it reassemble in my head. The affair didn't start during Dylan's divorce. The affair may have caused Dylan's divorce. All those things Jenna accused Dylan of, staying out late, being emotionally somewhere else, spending money he couldn't account for, she wasn't paranoid. She wasn't making it up. He was with Megan, my wife. While I sat at home feeding my daughter dinner and thinking everything was fine, I said to Frank, "Use everything." He nodded. That's all. The man knew when not to talk. I drove to a hardware store that afternoon. I bought new deadbolts, new knob sets, new strike plates. I went home and changed every lock on my house. I've been a plumber for 10 years, but I can handle basic carpentry. Any tradesman can if he's not lazy. I drilled, I set screws, I tested every knob and every bolt twice. It took me 3 hours. There was something in it that I needed. The physical act of securing my own space, deciding what that door opened to and what it didn't. That night, Megan showed up. She still had a key, or thought she did. I was on the couch reading a story to Lily when I heard the knob rattle, then rattle again, then a pause, then knocking. I put Lily down in her room with a coloring book. "Daddy'll be right back, sweetheart." I opened the front door. Megan was standing on the porch. She looked thinner, tired in a way that makeup couldn't hide. She held up her old key like a question. "Grant, Your things are in boxes in the garage. Take them or I donate them in 7 days." I closed the door. I heard her stand there for a while, then her car started and she left. Now, I want to be clear about something, because I know how these stories usually go. People hear divorce and cheating, and they picture the wronged husband making it his mission to burn his ex-wife's life to the ground. That wasn't me. I didn't call Megan's office. I didn't tell her boss. I didn't post anything anywhere, didn't spread stories, didn't do any of that. What I did was legal, structural, and clean. But Toledo isn't New York. It's a city where people know each other, where your plumber goes to church with your accountant's sister. Word got out on its own. Megan's firm shifted her off a major client whose family knew mine. Co-workers who used to eat lunch with her found reasons to be busy, not because anyone appointed themselves moral police, but because she'd slept with her husband's twin brother, and that's a line that makes people physically uncomfortable. You can forgive a lot of things. Most people can. But there's something about that specific betrayal, the twin, the mirror image, the man who shared a face and a childhood and a last name. That turns stomachs in a way people can't quite articulate. What I did do was hire a forensic accountant, a woman named Dana Welch, recommended by Frank, not because Megan stole anything, she didn't, but Megan had done the books for my business for 5 years, and my business was a marital asset, and I wanted a clean separation. Dana found something interesting. Megan, being the sharp accountant she was, had structured certain business deductions so that extra money flowed into our joint account. All legal, nothing fraudulent, but built specifically to benefit her personal tax situation. She'd basically designed the bookkeeping so that my business subsidized our household in ways that inflated what the court would consider marital property. Frank used this. My business was premarital. I started it before we got married. The house down payment came from my father. Once Frank's team applied the proper credits and adjustments, Megan's share of the marital estate shrank considerably. Megan, an accountant, got out-accounted. She built a system designed to benefit us as a couple, and now that system was being used to accurately calculate what she was owed. Not a penny less, but not a penny more. She couldn't even be angry about it because all we did was follow the rules she'd set up. Month 7, Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen, coffee going, Lily watching cartoons in the living room. Someone knocked on the front door. Not the way delivery guys knock. Heavy, patient, a cop's knock. I opened it. Keith Porter was standing on my porch. Keith is Megan's father, retired police officer out of Sandusky, 58 years old, built like he was assembled from spare fire hydrant parts, short, wide, thick hands, a neck like a tree stump. I'd always liked Keith. He never gave me the suspicious father of the bride routine. He shook my hand at the wedding and said, "Take care of my girl," and that was that. We watched football together at Thanksgivings, argued about the Browns, drank his terrible homemade beer out of politeness. He hadn't called ahead. He just showed up. "Keith, can I come in?" I stepped aside, made him coffee. He sat at my kitchen table with his hands wrapped around the mug like he was trying to warm them even though it was August. He didn't give me the speech I expected, no, "She's still my daughter," or "Think about what you're throwing away." Instead, he looked at the table and said, "I raised her better than this. I want you to know her mother and I are ashamed. You were a good husband. You are a good father. And whatever you decide, I won't stand in your way." I didn't say anything for a while. I'd braced myself for another round of be the bigger man, and instead got this, and I didn't know what to do with it. Then Keith looked up at me. "I also want you to know she came to me 2 weeks ago and asked me to talk to you, to make you see reason. I told her no." He took a sip of coffee, and I told her that if I were you, I'd have done worse. We sat there for a minute, the cartoon sounds from the living room, Lily laughing at something. Keith asked for one thing, that Lily still got to see his side, him and his wife. Not Megan's right or wrong, just the grandparents. "Keith, you were always good to Lily. That doesn't change." He nodded, stood up. At the door, he turned back. "One more thing. Your brother came to my house last month. He wanted me to convince Megan to fight harder in the divorce. Put some pressure on you." "What did you do?" "I threw him out of my house." I almost smiled. Almost. "Sounds about right." Keith left. I stood in my doorway and watched his truck pull out of my driveway, and I thought, here's a man whose own daughter shattered my life, and he drove an hour down the turnpike to look me in the eye and tell me he's on my side. That's not about choosing teams. That's about a man with a compass that points to true north no matter what. The custody hearing was in month 8. I'm not going to walk through every legal detail because most of it was paperwork and waiting and sitting in hard chairs in a hallway that smelled like floor wax, but I'll tell you the parts that mattered. My case was simple: stable home, steady business, no record of anything. Lily had been living with me since Megan moved out. I had people willing to speak for me: Nate, my father, and Keith Porter, Megan's own father, as a character witness for me. Frank told me later that the judge noticed that. Megan's attorney pushed for 50-50, and look, Megan's a good mother. The affair didn't change that, and I never tried to argue otherwise, but the court looks at stability, and Megan's situation was a mess. New apartment, work situation shaky, and she was still seeing Dylan, openly now since everything was already out in the open. Frank presented one exhibit that settled it: a text message from Megan to Dylan sent at 11 o'clock on a night she had Lily. It read, "She's finally asleep. Can you come over?" Not illegal, not abuse, but the judge sat with that for a long time. The affair partner, the man who broke the family, being invited into the child's home on the mother's parenting time while the child slept in the next room. The judge wasn't impressed. I got primary custody. Megan got every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. Standard arrangement for the non-custodial parent. That night, I put Lily to bed. She was in her pajamas with the little cats on them, the ones Megan had bought her, and she looked up at me with those big brown eyes. Megan's eyes, and that'll never stop being true, and I'll never hold it against her. And she said, "Daddy, where's Uncle Dill?" My hands stopped moving on the blanket. "Uncle Dill is far away now, sweetheart." "Is he coming back?" "I don't think so, baby." She thought about that for a second, the way 3-year-olds think about things, seriously, briefly, then it was gone. "Okay, can I have water?" I got her water. I tucked her in. I closed her door. And I stood in the hallway with my back against the wall and my hand over my mouth for a long time, because that was the closest I came to breaking. Not for Megan, not for Dylan, not for any of it, but for my daughter asking where her uncle went, and me having to tell her he was gone, and knowing I couldn't explain why without teaching her something about the world that no 3-year-old should have to learn. Month 9. One of my guys, Tyler, young, 23, good worker, a little green, came to me at the shop looking like he'd swallowed a bee. "Boss, I got to tell you something." "Then tell me." He shifted around for a bit. Then it came out. Dylan had approached him at a bar 2 months back. Casual, friendly, just asking questions. "How's the business? How many clients you guys got? Any complaints?" That kind of thing. Tyler thought it was odd, but didn't think much of it. Dylan was my brother, after all. Or had been. Had. Then Tyler heard from another trade guy that 2 of my long-standing commercial clients, a restaurant called Patsy's over on Monroe, and a property management company that handled about 40 units, had both received anonymous tips that Lawson Plumbing was under investigation for code violations. There was no investigation. It was a lie. Both clients had paused their contracts for 2 weeks while they verified. 2 weeks of lost revenue. 2 weeks of me wondering why they weren't returning calls. Tyler had the forwarded email from the property management company. I read it. The phrasing was unmistakable. Same cadence, same rhythm, same way Dylan writes, and the word license, L-I-S-C-E-N-S-E, misspelled the same way Dylan had misspelled it on every form and application since high school. I'd teased him about it for 20 years. My brother wasn't just content to sleep with my wife. He wanted to gut my livelihood, too. I called Frank. Is this actionable? Tortious interference with business relations. If you can tie it to him, absolutely. I didn't file, not yet. I kept the evidence. Put it in a folder. I'm a plumber. I know that sometimes the smartest thing to do with a pressure problem is not to release it, but to know exactly where the valve is so you can use it when you need to. I went to both clients in person, didn't trash Dylan, just told them it was a false report from someone with a personal grudge, and they could verify with the city that there were no open investigations, no complaints, nothing. Both of them knew me. Both had watched me crawl under their buildings in January, fix their emergencies on Sundays, never pad a bill. They reinstated immediately. The property management company added another building to my contract. Anybody who's got enemies working that hard against them must be doing something right, the owner said. 3 new residential clients that month. Word got around. In Toledo, if people find out somebody tried to cut you off at the knees and you handled it without making a scene, they respect that. Months 10 through 13. I'll keep this short because most of it was just life. The long, undramatic work of rebuilding a house after a storm. Meanwhile, Megan and Dylan tried to be a real couple. Now that everything was blown open, destroyed, scorched, what was the point of pretending? At least let it not be for nothing, I imagine one of them said. I don't know which one. I don't care. Here's what I heard through the grapevine, not because I asked, but because Toledo is small and Nate's girlfriend works at the same gym as one of Megan's friends. It was a disaster from the jump. Megan didn't trust Dylan. Why would she? She watched him betray his own twin brother without blinking. Every time he was late, every unexplained hour, she went to pieces. And Dylan didn't trust Megan. She cheated on her husband. What made him special? They were 2 people who got together by lying, and now they were trapped in a relationship built on the inability to believe each other. They fought about money. Dylan was broke from his own divorce. They fought about Lily's custody schedule. Dylan resented that I got everything, as if custody of my own daughter was some prize I'd swindled him out of. They fought about the family. Dylan blamed me for turning everyone against them, like I'd organized some campaign instead of just standing still while the people who loved us looked at what he'd done and decided for themselves. I heard about one fight in particular through 2 degrees of separation, so take it with a grain. Apparently Dylan said to Megan during an argument, "You know, if Grant had just been a better husband, maybe you wouldn't have..." And Megan hit him, open hand across the face, not because she was defending me, but because she knew it wasn't true. I was a good husband. I was present, I was steady, I was faithful, I did the dishes and changed diapers and came home every night, and the fact that she blew it up anyway, for no reason she could point to and name, that's the thing she couldn't live with. Dylan trying to hand her a reason was worse than having none at all. Month 14. Megan ended it. I don't know the exact words. I know the gist. We don't love each other. We just couldn't stand being alone after what we did. She moved to Columbus, new firm, new city, 2.5 hours away. She drove up every other weekend for Lily. Dylan was alone. Actually, fully alone. No wife. Jenna had remarried, some teacher from Bowling Green. No brother. No Megan. Our father wouldn't speak to him. Our mother called sometimes, but even she sounded exhausted by it, like a woman who'd been carrying water uphill for a year and finally set the bucket down. The extended family, aunts, cousins, the whole network, had quietly done the math and cut their losses. He showed up at my house on a Thursday evening. I hadn't seen him in months. He'd lost weight. His beard was patchy and unkempt, not in the stylish way he used to keep it. He looked like a man sleeping on a couch somewhere, which, as I found out later, he was. I opened the door, but didn't step back, didn't invite him in. We stood there on either side of the threshold, and the distance between us was about 18 inches and 1,000 miles. "Megan and I are done," he said. "There's nothing between us anymore. It's over." He swallowed. "We're brothers, Grant. Blood. That has to mean something." I looked at him. I looked at him the way I look at a pipe joint that's corroded through, not with anger, not with disgust, just with the clear recognition that this thing is broken and it's not going to hold again. "You came to my house. You looked me in the eye for months while you were with my wife. You wrote me a letter, 4 pages, and didn't apologize once. Then you tried to sabotage my business. And now you're here because you're alone and you need someone." I let that sit. "That's not brotherhood, Dylan. That's convenience." His face crumpled. "I am sorry. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry it didn't work out with her. You're sorry your life fell apart. But you're not sorry for what you did to me. Because if you were, you wouldn't have spent the last year trying to justify it." I closed the door. I heard him stand on the porch for a while, then his footsteps, then his car, then nothing. A month later, the text came, long, pages of it. Memories of growing up, the Silverado, our dad teaching us to cast at Lake Erie, the time we both got poison ivy so bad our mom made us sleep in the garage on air mattresses and we stayed up all night talking about girls we liked. He poured it all in, every good thing we'd ever had, like he was building a case that the past could outweigh the present. He ended with, "I can't lose you. You're my brother." I read it, all of it. I sat with it for a full day. I went to work, came home, made dinner for Lily, put her to bed, sat in the kitchen with my phone on the table and that message open. Then I typed 5 words and hit send. "I don't have a brother. I need you to understand something about that. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't a door I slammed to hear it bang. It was a decision I made the way I make decisions, slowly, completely, and finally. I didn't hate Dylan. Hate would mean I was still invested, still turning it over, still connected. I wasn't. I had removed him from my life the way you remove a section of pipe that's corroded through. You cut it out, you solder in something new, you pressure test it, and you move on. You don't keep the old piece in the garage and look at it." 1 year later, 16 months since those 6 seconds at the doorway, my business had grown. 3rd employee, a kid named Marco, who reminded me of myself at 22. Quiet, shows up early, does the work. I'd landed a maintenance contract with a local apartment complex. 60 units, steady monthly check. Lawson Plumbing wasn't making me rich, but it was making me solid, and solid was all I ever wanted. Lily was 4. She'd started pre-K. She drew pictures of our house constantly, big, crooked, always with a yellow sun in the corner. She didn't ask about Uncle Dill anymore. Kids are like water. They flow around obstacles and fill new shapes and don't look back. I'd started seeing someone, Haley Dunn, physical therapist. I'd tweaked my back on a job, one of those low water heaters where you're bent in half for an hour. And my doctor sent me to her clinic. She was calm, direct, had a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. We talked about nothing the first few sessions. Then we talked about a little more. I asked her to dinner after my last appointment because I didn't want it to be weird. She said yes, like she'd been waiting for me to ask but wasn't going to do it for me. We'd been on 6 dates. I wasn't rushing anything. She knew the broad strokes of my situation and didn't push for details. I liked that about her. Keith Porter drove down from Sandusky once a month to take Lily to the park. He'd show up, I'd have coffee ready, and we'd stand in the kitchen talking about the Browns or the walleye forecast or whatever neutral ground, kept us both comfortable. Then he'd take Lily to the swings for an hour and bring her back with ice cream on her shirt. It was the strangest, most decent relationship to come out of the whole thing. Megan's father, my friend. Life doesn't make sense sometimes, and it doesn't owe you an explanation. My dad and I went fishing every other Saturday. Lake Erie, same spots he took us when we were kids. We didn't talk about Dylan. We didn't talk about much. We fished. That was enough. Saturday morning, pancakes. Lily was at the kitchen table drawing. Radio on low, some oldies station. Lily liked the ones with horns. I was at the stove, batter sizzling, the good cast iron. That was the only useful thing my mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, ever gave me. My phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. I picked it up, thumbed it open. I'm moving to Michigan. New job. I just wanted you to know I'm getting help. I see a therapist now. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I hope one day you can... I knew who it was. I didn't need to read the rest. I blocked the number, set the phone down, flipped the pancake. Daddy, look. Lily held up her drawing. Our house. Big, crooked, yellow sun in the corner. 2 stick figures in the yard, one tall, one tiny. That's beautiful, sweetheart. I put the pancake on her plate, cut it into pieces, poured the syrup. The radio played. The sun came in through the kitchen window. My daughter ate her breakfast. That's where the story ends. Not because nothing else happened, but because everything that mattered already did.